Welcome to Silver Series Secrets, the video tutorial series that helps you use Silver Series operator interface terminals with other Watlow products. In this installment, you will learn how to create two different types of graphs: a real-time trend to display the values of multiple parameters as they're read from EasyZone controllers, and a historical trend to display data stored by the OIT's data sampling feature. We'll use a Silver Series OIT communicating with an EasyZone RM control system, a laptop computer with EasyWare 5000, and a USB or Ethernet connection from the computer to the OIT. This lesson assumes you already know how to connect EasyZone controllers to an OIT via 232 or a 485 or Ethernet network, use EasyWare 5000 to create projects that communicate with EasyZone controllers, use the time-based data transfer object to copy data from EasyZone controllers to the OIT's onboard memory, and set up the data sampling object to record data periodically. If not, see the Silver Series Secret installment that shows the communications method you want to use and the installment on logging data. This EasyBuilder 5000 project is already configured to log 8 temperatures measured by my EasyZone RM system. Time-based data transfers have already been configured to copy 8 temperature values read by the EasyZone RM every 10 seconds to consecutive memory locations in the OIT starting at local word 800. A data sampling object is configured to record this data in a log every 60 seconds. Recording data every minute is relatively frequent for a data log, but may seem slow when viewed on a real-time graph, so we'll create a new data sampling object to use for graphing. Click New. Enter a description. To record data every 10 seconds, leave Time-Based selected and set sampling time interval to 10 seconds. Set the read address to the first local word to which data transfer objects copy analog input values. That's local word 800. The data sampling object starts a new log file every day at midnight. Sampling every 10 seconds for 60 minutes per hour over 24 hours creates 8,640 points per day. So I'll set max data records to 9,000. That's the maximum records per day. To tell the data sampling object how to interpret the data, click Data Format, click New. For data type, choose 32-bit float, enter a description of the data point, click OK. Repeat this for the other data points. Click Exit. Choose where you want to save the history files. The OIT has 48 megabytes available for user data such as recipes and data logs. Using an SD card or a USB drive allows you to add even more memory to the OIT. I've installed an SD card in the OIT and I'll use it for the graphing history by choosing Save to SD card. Enter a folder name. I'd like to keep at least the past month available to view on the graph, so I'll set the preservation limit to 45 days. Click OK. Click Exit. Now it's time to create the graphs. To make the graphs as big as possible, I'm going to create one window for each. From the Window menu, choose Open Window. Click New. Click Base Window. Name the window. Click OK. Repeat for the second window. Select the window for the trend and open it. Select the Trend Display tool. Enter a description. For Data Sampling Object Index, choose the data sample you created. The difference between the two types of graphs we're going to make in this tutorial is set with the choice of trend type. First, let's make a real-time trend. It's good for when you want a graph of recent data that updates automatically with new data as it's read from the controller, but it can't be used to review old data. A real-time trend displays only data collected on the current day and does not save the data through a power cycle, project download, or other reset of the OIT. I want to see 10 minutes of data at a time on the screen, so I select Time and set Distance to 600 seconds. On the Trend tab, the background color setting determines the color of the background or field on which the trends appear. By default, this is a light gray. We'll keep that in mind as we choose color for the data trends. On the Channel tab, check the display option for the sample values you want to display on the graph. I want to display them all. You can choose a color, and you must set the vertical scale for each. For now, I'll set 0 to 50 and span to 100. That sets the bottom of the graph at 50 and the top at 100, though you might expect it to be 150 at the top. Click OK to place the graph on the screen. I'm going to leave some room at the left for a vertical scale and at the bottom for buttons. That's all it takes to set up a basic trend. After adding a button to open the trend window on the initial window, I save, compile, and download it to the OIT. You can see that data is plotted on the trend as it is read from the controller. Let's add a grid and time scale to the graph to help us interpret the data. On the Trend tab, enable the grid. Set horizontal to 5 divisions and vertical interval to 60 seconds. And set the grid to a color that contrasts with the background. Enable the time scale, set the format and font size. If the vertical scale of the graph will always remain the same, it's simple to use the text tool to add labels next to the graph marking the values. Save, compile, and download to see the results. The graph plots new points every 10 seconds. Once the area fills, the graph scrolls automatically. Tap the Pause Play button under the graph at the right to keep it from automatically scrolling. Tap it again to continue. The double arrow buttons under the graph allow you to scroll backward or forward 1 division. The Start and End buttons take you all the way back to the earliest data or up to the current data. Tap the scroll bar to scroll to a specific time. After you've scrolled the graph manually, tap the play button to scroll to the current time and allow the graph to scroll automatically again. You can leave the screen and come back and the data continues to update. However, if you cycle power to the OIT or download an update to the project, the trend displays only the data since the last reset. To be able to view any data stored by the data sampling object, create a historical trend. I could use the Trend Display tool and create another graph, but since I want a very similar graph, I'll copy the real-time graph from the Trend window to the Graph window. I'll change the trend type to History. The trend still shows only 1 day's data at a time, but you can give the operator control of which day is displayed by setting the History control. I'm going to use local word 100 to store the History control value. Everything else in the trend setup can stay the same for now. The History control value is an integer that determines what day's data is displayed on the graph. When the History control value is 0, the trend shows today's data. When it's set to 1, the trend shows yesterday. When it's 2, 2 days ago, and so on. To give the user a way to see the History control value, add a numeric display. Using set word buttons to increment and decrement local word 100 by 1 and adding a label makes it clear how to use the History control. When you download the modified project, by default, EasyBuilder deletes the historical data. If you change the number of channels or trends being plotted, you must delete the old data, but otherwise you can uncheck that option and keep the data. After letting the OIT accumulate data for several days, you can see the historical graph can be used to view the data from those days. Let's review. To graph data, use a data transfer object to copy the data you want from EasyZone controllers to consecutive memory locations in the OIT. Set up a data sampling object to record data periodically in a log file. Use a trend display to graph the sampled data on the screen. The differences between a real-time and a history trend are: a history trend can show data from any day that's saved on the OIT or an attached memory device such as an SD card. A history trend doesn't update while it's displayed. A real-time trend shows data only from the current day up to the most recent time the OIT was reset or its power was cycled. And a real-time trend plots new points on the graph as they are read by the OIT from the EasyZone controllers. We hope you found this installment of Silver Series Secrets helpful. We'll explore additional topics in other installments.